All right, what's up, guys? It's Dynasty Life. It's your boy Steve. I'm here with.
The Polish Hammer.
And a Bagala special.
All right, and we're here today doing another episode of Buy or Sell, and we're doing today Derek Carr. So I guess just to start it off, obviously his switch, the switch with Devontae Adams. Where do you guys rank David Carr right now in your fantasy rankings, Dynasty to be specific?
It's actually Derek Carr, but David Carr played like 20
Yeah,
years.
yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. Derek Carr.
If you look at it right now, it had him as number 13 quarterback, as you see on the screen, number 17 overall, which is actually pretty surprising. 17 overall, maybe not really because he's a quarterback. Quarterback rack up a ton of points regardless. But I never viewed him as a very viable fantasy quarterback, especially in a one quarterback league with, if it's a standard 10 or 12 team league. I never viewed him as a starting quarterback. I always viewed him as like a fringe QB1. But I think this year there's a lot of interesting things happening with Derek Carr. Obviously, the addition of Devontae Adams, new head coach and Josh McDaniels. So I think they have all the pieces in place. You're talking about Darren Waller. You're talking about Hunter Renfrow. You got Josh Jacobs there. It seems like they have all the pieces at the skill positions that he would need to vault into that top 10. And, I could see him finishing anywhere between 7 and 10, if he really starts clicking with Devontae, which I think he will. I could see him finishing, like I said, somewhere in that 7 to 10 range. As you could see, he just inked a new 3-year extension. So they committed to Derek Carr. So I think that'll take some of the pressure off him as well. No contract, worries, anything like that in his future. So I think everything is set up for Derek Carr to really have one of those breakout years. And if you could pick him up, if you could buy him, I wouldn't say low per se, but buy him at a decent value, I'm on the buy category for Derek Carr. Everything just feels like the pieces fit in place. And he was already quarterback, as I said, quarterback 13 with, basically throwing a Hunter Renfrow all season. So a healthy Darren Waller, a huge pickup in Devontae Adams. I don't see why he can't crack the top 10, get as high as 7-8.
Okay, so you have him in your top 10 there. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's easily top 10. If he was 13 last year, easily. Look, bro, he's 13 throwing a Hunter Renfrow all season.
Yes, he was 13. All right, so you have him in your top. I don't have him in my top 10. I have him outside my top 10. But go ahead, Bagala. What are you thinking about Derek Carr here?
Usually, and to Polish's point, he went in a smaller league, a 10-team league, a 12-team league. Derek Carr is more of a quarterback 2, a QB2 than anything. So, somebody you're going to pick up if you have an injury or something like that. Deeper leagues, he'll probably get he'll be somebody's starting quarterback, but he still probably wouldn't give you QB1 production. Where he is, I think he's ranked perfectly from last year. He's right in that range, 10 to 15 range. The addition of Devontae Adams is gonna be the difference here, and Waller can stay healthy. Derek Carr, I've always felt Derek Carr was a good quarterback. I just felt like the Raiders never gave him enough. You understand? Yes, he had Amari for those few years, but it was Amari and who else? James Jones. It was like, so he never had the weapons. They are set up to really make a run, and I think the way the Raiders are set up right now, a lot of people are high, but everybody's looking at Cincy and this and that, and the Raiders could really make a run. And if they're going to make a run, I think Derek Carr can be a top 10 quarterback this year. Maybe if everything goes absolutely fantastic, he can make the top 5, but top 10 is not out of the realm of possibility after this season, just given his talent and the weapons that he has. You're talking about Waller, who's if he stays healthy, he's one of the top tight ends in the game. Devontae Adams needs you already know what he's about. And then you got Hunter Renfrow. It's and in the slot. And then with Josh McDaniels, I don't think he gets enough credit because he was in New England with Bill Belichick and they had Tom Brady. Josh McDaniels can coach offensive football. You know what I'm saying? His first stint in Denver, he ended up with Tebow or whatever. He has some legitimate weapons, and I think the sky's the limit for Derek Carr this year. And if everything goes right, you're going to be talking about him being one of those top quarterbacks and putting up big numbers, at least for another 3 years with Devontae as he read up. But if it starts off good this year, I think we can see Derek Carr go on a little run, 3 to 4 year run where he's a top 5, top 10 quarterback in fantasy.
If you remember a couple of years ago when the Raiders, I think this is right before they traded Amari, maybe the season before, and he led the Raiders to, I think they were 12-4 that year. That might have been 2017.
He broke his foot. He broke his leg.
He was in the MVP conversation.
Yes, he was.
The level of talent is there. Outside of that time when he broke his foot, he doesn't really get hurt. There's never really an injury concern for him. Mm-hmm. He's a pure pocket passer. He does take some risks, but I think he has a little bit of that Brett Favre gunslinger mentality. But I think the upgrade, obviously, with Devontae, I think the bigger upgrade is Josh McDaniels. I'll be honest with you. That's almost as important an upgrade as getting Devontae Adams is really having everything at his disposal and the right guy to put those pieces in place to be successful. So as I said, bro, he was a number 13 quarterback last year, throwing to Hunter Renfrow, and that was it, like basically. So
yeah,
he can only go up from that.
He basically, after the Ruggs thing, he held that team together. Like I think Blanco, you don't give him enough credit.
I would agree with that.
I'm going to talk to you about it right now, actually.
Yeah, right? you don't give him enough credit.
Let's just talk about it, right? Look at what he's done over his career, right? In his QB rank, right? 14, 12, 19, 20, 17, 14, 13, okay? He had 1 year where he threw over 30 touchdowns, one. If you look at it, he averages about 24 touchdowns a season if you add up everything and divide it, 24, 25, whatever you want to call it. Now, they did get better. Obviously, you got Devontae Adams. But for me, he is who he is. Last year, he was 5th in pass attempts, so he threw a ton of times and still threw only 23 touchdowns. Now, I think he could throw 30 touchdowns, 35 at best, and that would be, everything falling together for him. But even still, like, when you think about it, who do you have him ahead of? In a 10 quarterback league, he's not playing. In a 12 quarterback league, maybe. In a 14 quarterback league, yes. 2 quarterback league, I like him as a QB2. But I'm going to give you a list of guys here, basically kind of like my top 10 to 15 guys areas range of why I can't have him ahead of some of these guys, right? Josh Allen,
no.
Patrick Mahomes,
no.
Justin Herbert,
probably not. No.
Joe Burrow.
I love Joe Burrow.
We're talking dynasty and fantasy, not just real life. But
no, I understand.
Okay.
Joe Burrow, I love Joe Burrow, and full disclosure, I have Joe Burrow on my dynasty team. We laud Joe Burrow a lot because he got that team to the Super Bowl and they made a lot of splashy plays. But if you look outside, I don't want to say outside, but Joe Burrow's numbers were a little skewed because he went
out. Yes,
last couple of weeks.
Yes.
So Joe Burrow's numbers are a little skewed, and I love Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be even better next year, and that's why he's my dynasty quarterback going forward. But Joe Burrow's numbers are a little skewed, so I can't just summarily sit there and say I'll take Joe Burrow over Derek Carr. I mean, I would just
dynasty,
he's a lot younger because he's a lot younger, but 30, as we've seen, 31 as a quarterback, as a pocket quarterback who doesn't run around and get hurt, that's not old. So I'm not looking at it from that standpoint.
Not at all. Well, when we're talking dynasty, there's no way I'm taking Carr over Burrow in dynasty. Redraft league, I think so. I think
I
that's
get
a
it.
conversation, Carr and Burrow. But for dynasty, I can't. Redraft league, yes. But all right, moving on from Burrow, like yeah, I guess you could talk about that for redraft. But Deshaun Watson,
No.
Lamar Jackson,
No, because Lamar has the rushing upside, so I would give
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray's a little weird, man. Kyler Murray kind of scares me,
but he runs the ball.
He does run the ball.
But he tends to break down in the back half of years, but like just off of fantasy and talent wise and the numbers he puts up, you cannot take Derek Carr.
No, and I'm not saying you can, but
and that's what I'm saying here with this list of who can he actually put up a better fantasy season than? So that's what I'm kind of naming.
But
here,
you had
right?
that's what, 6 guys.
As we get to Kyle Murray, Lamar Jackson, that's 7 guys. That's 7 guys so far.
Okay.
Dak Prescott.
I might with the new addition.
I
might.
I said that also.
That's not a slam dunk.
Dynasty as well.
Probably.
It's closer. It's closer than you think.
And pull up Dak Prescott's stats real quick. How many touchdowns?
Because
we're talking about fantasy. We're talking about fantasy points.
Yes. Dak has been going off in fantasy.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking. That's what we're talking about here.
You need to start looking at Derek Carr not as of what he has done with less talent, and start looking at it as, does he have the talent to match and elevate with this talent, this coach, and everything that he has now?
I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. If he throws 30 touchdowns, if he has a better season than he's had the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, and he throws 30 touchdowns, even still with the guys I'm naming here, all these guys are throwing 30 touchdowns. So he's not producing a better fantasy season than them, even still. If he throws 35, then we're in the conversation. We're talking about Dak Prescott.
Yeah, but Steve,
Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins.
But it's not
Kirk Cousins is throwing 35 touchdowns a year. Is Derek Carr going to throw 35 touchdowns this year? That's
highly possible.
Kirk Cousins is throwing 35 touchdowns a year because he was throwing to Stephon Diggs and a prime Adam Thielen. After Diggs left, exactly. He got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen.
But also
he had the weapons.
Take this into account.
Again, but that's what we're talking about.
The game flow for the Vikings, their defense is not that good. So he's in a shootout every single game. So that's a factor on why Kirk Cousins is throwing it so much. And Kirk Cousins, like you said, has Jefferson and Thielen, and
I think
exactly. But that's my point. Who has a better chance of throwing 35 touchdowns? Is it Derek Carr or is it Kirk Cousins?
For this year?
For this year coming up.
This year,
Derek Carr. It's Derek Carr.
You think Derek Carr has a better chance of throwing 35 touchdowns?
Derek Carr will have a better season than Kirk Cousins this year.
Okay. I mean, he's not even cracked top 10, but okay.
Derek Carr will have
he hasn't cracked top 12 actually, but okay.
But he didn't have Devontae.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
Dude,
I'm just not betting on it. I'm not drafting him to produce that. I'm just not doing it. And if I have him in Dynasty, I'm selling him. I'm a very, very much sell, especially in Dynasty.
I think Derek Carr's
going down and get another piece. I'm not rolling with Derek Carr.
If I have a big, I'm buying on Derek Carr this year.
I'm absolutely.
And if I'm buying, and I'm buying big time, and it might not be, it might not cost you that much to get them if you have the right pieces. If you have, a big time wide, if you're just stacked at the running back or the receiver position or whatever it is, I'm going to get Derek Carr, and filling out and having a solid quarterback, without having to gut my team to go and try and get a Deshaun or something like that.
That's actually a really good point that you make, because the cost of Derek Carr is not going to be that much. I mean, I
No.
think his value has increased somewhat, but I don't think based on name value alone, people are like, oh, send me the farm for Derek Carr. So
after this year,
his value with what you would have to give up, that's an easy buy for me, honestly.
Yeah, but who would you have to? What QB would you have to have for you to go out and buy Derek Carr?
Well, there's a team in our league that could use a quarterback. He's got Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, and so
he did just get Trey Lance too. But okay, other than that, and that's a 14-team dynasty league, right? Who else are you coming off of to go get Derek Carr?
I would come off of.
But
There's as of this year, if I have Dak Prescott, I would come off of Dak Prescott. There's no Amari Cooper. You're not.
I like that.
There's no Amari Cooper. You don't have Gallup for the first. He's going on PUP. He's probably going to be out the first 6 weeks. You understand? CeeDee Lamb is good sometimes, but then he gets a case of the yips and he starts dropping the ball. You understand? So if I could, and somebody would pick Dak Prescott in a 12-team league or a 10-team league. He's a high volume passer. He's gonna throw the ball.
Are you coming off of Matt Stafford for Derek Carr?
No, not with the moves. Well, you could, because I mean he does have Matt Stafford does have Cooper Kupp, and they did pick up Allen Robinson. But it's close.
I think it's too close to go out and buy him. That's the thing, is that even if you have Stafford or Russell Wilson or Justin Fields or even Hurts, like why would you want?
I would come off.
That's the thing.
I would come off of Fields for him. I'd come off if I had Justin Fields. If I had Jalen Hurts,
straight up.
Yep.
I'd come off of Jalen Hurts in a heartbeat.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Straight up.
If you're gonna, if you're gonna give me Derek
Carr straight up.
You just don't like him.
No, it's not that I like him. He's a good QB. He's just not great, and he's not a good enough fantasy QB.
But you're talking about he wasn't great before he got great pieces around him, Steve.
After 8 years, he's gonna fucking throw 40 touchdowns. Like,
yes, with Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs Josh McDaniels calling the plays. Waller has to stay healthy, but Hunter Renfrow has emerged as a true slot receiver. They have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. Yes, it is possible that he goes absolutely lights out this year.
It's possible. I just don't think the chances.
What another factor another factor on why I would buy Derek Carr. Forget about Devontae Adams. Forget about the Raiders for a second. That division is loaded with teams and quarterbacks that are going to put up points. And if you
it's going to be a firefight.
If you don't think in that AFC West division that Derek Carr is going to need to get you 28 to 31 a game to be able to keep up with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson, that's also going to be a piece of the pie in how much volume Derek Carr puts up to keep up with those guys.
Well, that's what he did this year, though. He was 5th in pass attempts, and he still finished 13th.
But you're looking at it from the standpoint of would you deny this? The talent is better.
Yes, of course. But Josh Jacobs is going to be running the damn ball. Yes,
significantly better.
It is.
They did not bring in Josh McDaniels to run the ball 30 times a game. You can forget about it.
I'm not saying they're gonna. Last year they didn't. He threw 630 passes last year.
But you're looking at it. The reason why he threw 630 passes and only had 23 touchdowns is because Hunter Renfrow was his number one receiver.
Thank you.
For the majority of the season. So now
he's throwing Hunter Renfrow and Zay Jones.
And Darren Waller was hurt for 75% of the season. So now that you're talking about, listen, if you could tell me right now that Darren Waller out of 17 games will play 13 or 14, Devontae is going to be on the field, Hunter Renfrow is going to be on the field, Josh Jacobs is going to be on the field. that's that 23 can easily go to 35. I think the yardage and the attempts will stay the same. That's really the only difference. 4,800 yards, that lets you know he's a high volume passer. And you don't think that high volume is going to translate into more touchdowns with better talent?
I do, but the thing is, even if he does 35 touchdowns, all those guys I just named are all doing that. So I just can't put him ahead of them if these guys have been doing that. And
but even if he doesn't necessarily have to be ahead of them. If he's even with them, that's a victory, considering how much you would have to give up to get Derek Carr. You know what I mean? It's not that much.
I don't know.
The upside is there. It's
if
all
he moves
upside.
From 13 to 10, I mean, that's not a huge jump. Like,
no, I think he can go from 13 to 8 or 7.
I think he can get up there this year. I think he can get up there this year. I would buy him. It wouldn't. I don't think it would cost that much if I didn't have a quarterback or I didn't like my quarterback situation. I'm buying Derek Carr, and you know, if all of his guys stay healthy, we're gonna look at Derek Carr a lot different after this year.
I'm already looking at him differently to begin with.
You know, just the way, and look what he did. It's not related to fantasy world, maybe a little bit, but he went and he took less money just to make sure that they could go get Devontae Adams and go and keep some of the pieces on their team.
Well, he signed his contract obviously after Devontae.
I'm not questioning his character. He's a great dude. I mean, he
has character,
character,
talent, and
I'm just fantasy wise, I don't want him. That's all. Fantasy wise, I don't want nothing to do with him. You know,
I think the person that
might sell him while everybody's high on him, but I don't want, unless it's a 2 QB or super flex, then yes. But
I think the person that has him this year that made that trade, I think we look at that trade like, oh, it's a horrible trade. But if Derek Carr goes on the run that I think he can in these next 3 years, we're not going to look at that trade and say, wow, that was a stupid trade. We're going to say
that's a whole different story, bro. That's Derek Carr to Lamar Jackson. Was that Lamar Jackson trade? Was that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a whole nother bro. Especially in Dynasty, that's not even a question.
But it is, because you don't know. Lamar runs the ball 100. How many carries does he get during a year? He could break down at any moment. If Lamar Jackson gets hurt next year and Derek Carr goes off for 35, 37, however many touchdowns you want to say, you're going to look at that trade and say, maybe he dodged the bullet.
I don't want to put the kibosh on Lamar Jackson. I don't want to put the kibosh on Lamar Jackson because I think he's a terrific quarterback, and I think he's a lot better than this quarterback I'm going to bring up. But the similarities are there from what Bagala's talking about an injury standpoint. You guys remember Robert Griffin III, don't you?
Yeah.
He was a dynamic guy, just like Lamar Jackson, ran around, had a good arm too, tore up his knee, and he was never the same. So from that standpoint, he's taking less of a risk by acquiring Derek Carr and trading away Lamar Jackson. I wouldn't have made that deal. But now that I'm starting to break it down and we're getting a little further away from that deal being made, it doesn't look as bad as it might have did, initially when you consider how much Lamar runs around and his injury risk is very high. Like, let's call it what it is. His injury risk is a lot higher than a guy like Derek Carr. So Derek Carr is the safe bet if you're talking, less of an injury risk and more stable return. Lamar could go out there and win you the championship, but he can also get hurt and be out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL.
Yes, again.
Yeah, that trade was just something totally different, though. You're talking about Jamar Chase and Andrews in that deal. That's just a whole.
Well, we're just evaluating the quarterback.
We're evaluating the quarterback part of it.
But yeah, that's all different. But all right, well, yeah. So I'm a sell on Derek Carr. Y'all are both buying.
Yeah,
y'all can buy it. Y'all can buy.
Should we move on to the next?
But yeah, I mean that's it for this episode now. So we'll come back with another episode soon. But all right, hit us up. Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe. Let us know who you want us to do next, and we'll put that on the next episode. All right.
Adios.